European rail travel can be affordable, though in a lot of countries, particularly in Western Europe, it often ends up being very expensive. What if I told you though that all public transport within this Western European country is free of charge? I've come all the way out to Luxembourg to check out the country's newest train as we cross the border to Arlon in Belgium as I show you the ins and outs of the brand new Coradia Max. Now join me as the journey continues. We begin our journey at Luxembourg Gare Centrale, which has been serving the capital since 1859 and features a rather impressive facade. The station is actually undergoing major track works and renovation as part of a modernisation programme, as we'll see shortly, but is still very much in use and is easily accessible by the city's extensive tram and bus network. The main hall here is really something to behold. The architecture throughout the station is just incredible, though my personal favourite has to be the stained glass window just above the departure screens, displaying a silhouette of Luxembourg City. Just brilliant! Elsewhere in the station are plenty of shops and amenities, including a waiting room and a toilet, which I found amusing as despite public transport being free, you still have to pay to use it. Go figure. But anyway, let's find our train service on the departure screen, which is the 1623 to Arlon, departing from platform 2. Now you may be surprised to learn that there's a ticket office and numerous ticket machines in this station, despite train travel in the entire country of Luxembourg being completely free, unless you're travelling in first class. Not only is this to provide information for passengers, but also because Luxembourg hosts a fair amount of international services to the neighbouring countries of Germany, France and Belgium, the latter of which I'm taking today. Consequently, a small supplement is paid on CFL services, that is, the national operator of Luxembourg, that cross these borders. Mine to Arlon this evening costing €5.80 for my return in second class, so nothing too significant. There's also a separate ticket machine for TGV services to Paris. However, the ongoing track works I mentioned earlier have resulted in most services to France and some to Belgium being suspended, instead relying on rail replacement buses to meet these trains further down the line. Elsewhere in the station though, traffic is pretty much normal. CFL domestic trains are seen in operation, alongside Stadler Kiss trains to Germany and S&CB trains into Belgium. Our train, however, is waiting for us at platform 2. This is the CFL Class 2 400, which first entered service in Luxembourg in September 2024 domestically, subsequently running to Belgium from January 2025. These electric multiple units were built by Alstom and are the first of their new Coradia Max platform that will also eventually operate in countries such as Germany and Poland, which features a mixture of double-decker and single-decker vehicles. 34 of these units are being built, 22 3-car Class 2 400 units and 12 6-car Class 2 450 units, all of which will be authorised for 160 km per hour in Luxembourg, France and Belgium, and will primarily replace CFL's ageing Class 2000 fleet, as well as increase seating capacity in its fleet by 46%. If these trains look familiar to you, then you're right. The base design of these trains is based on Alstom's Coradia Stream units, an example being the NS-ICNG used on both the Intercity Direct and Eurocity Direct services in Belgium and the Netherlands. Anyway, let's get on board. Level boarding is provided using the retractable sections, which are fairly common across Europe these days. Reaching the top deck, however, requires the use of the 2 stair sections here, which shows a metro style layout once on top, though walking a bit further to the main seating area shows a classic 2x2 configuration for the main second class area, mostly consisting of airline seats, though there are also a number of table seats too for groups. The lower deck is the same layout, but is more handy for those who can't access the top deck or just prefer it for whatever reason. Our journey will see us head west through Luxembourg towards the Belgian border, and as this is a regional train, we'll stop at most stations before crossing the border and arriving into Arlon at 16:53, our train taking 30 minutes to cover a distance of 29 kilometers. We depart Luxembourg on time at 16:23, ready to head to Belgium. As we leave Luxembourg, one of the older Class 2000 units can be seen in the sidings, having been stood down. All are expected to move to Romania for use with state-owned CFR Calatori by the end of 2025 once fully replaced, some having already left Luxembourg for their new life. We're quickly approaching our first stop of Bertrange, and one thing to point out which I actually initially missed is that the passenger information screens showcase which direction the doors will be opening from just before the train arrives into the station. Nice!
Bertrange Strassen. Descente du côté gauche dans le sens de la marche.
The station here is just as old as Luxembourg's, being located in the territory of the municipality of Bertrange, near Strassen in the canton of Luxembourg. But enough about that. Let's now have a look at the train's interior. I'm afraid to say that CFL and Alstom seem to have gone down the route most operators have with seats on new trains. These are quite firm and hard, though for a 30-minute journey I probably shouldn't be complaining much. Each seat pair has foldable armrests on the aisle side, and the overall legroom itself is acceptable for a regional train. At least it doesn't have the dreaded support bar below. The airline seats have small tray tables with a groove for a cup holder, and probably the thing I'm most happy about is both seats have individual 220V power as well as USB-C sockets, especially as most new builds are still fitted with USB-As. The coat hooks can be found on a small groove on the seat in front, and there's even a draw-down blind which effectively fits the curved angle of the windows to block the view when the sunlight gets too harsh. I'd say this is a great interior for a regional train, but I probably wouldn't want to spend ages on the ironing board seats. Otherwise, I'm impressed. We're now arriving into Mamers-Lissy, which is a rather unique stop on the Luxembourg-Arlon Line in that its main purpose is to serve the Josy Bartel High School, hence the name. Consequently, this stop is only operable on weekdays from 7 AM to 8 PM to meet the needs of both staff and students. As we later depart Capellen, this is a good chance to show you the acceleration of the Coradia Max, which is a significant improvement not only compared to the Class 2000s these will be replacing, but also the S&CB loco-hauled stock, which run the slightly faster regional express and intercity services between Luxembourg and Belgium, allowing for better timekeeping. As we accelerate, it's worth noting these trains have free Wi-Fi on board, however I couldn't get it to work on my phone for some reason. Maybe I was just unlucky this time? Now let's have a look around the rest of the train. Another advantage of the Coradia Max over what they're replacing are the open gangways, which, for regional and commuter routes, is a brilliant choice, making it much easier to move around. This is the middle single-deck carriage, the only one on the 3-car Class 2400 variant. Here, you'll find decent space for bike storage, as well as a wheelchair-accessible space for those with reduced mobility. Both of these feature fold-down seats, and both of these are clearly signed and visible on the vinyl floors of the carriage. You'll also find an accessible toilet accompanying the wheelchair space, located just next to the doors. Despite being a regional train and having served this route for most of the day at this point, it was very clean inside. The space is also more than adequate if you were to bring, for example, a wheelchair inside. The Coradia Max also features standard toilets just next to the vestibules on the double-deck driving vehicles. Again, this was clean, and I was impressed with the use of space to make it less cramped than it would otherwise appear. The vestibules also feature route maps showcasing CFL's domestic and part of its international network in Luxembourg and beyond, which I think is handy. Okay, now here's where we get to my main problem with this train. First class. Well, can you even call it that? Okay, yeah, this is a regional train and you wouldn't expect anything fancy, but given this has the same uncomfortable seats as in second class and you have to pay to sit here domestically, I personally don't see the appeal minus being a quiet space to work and get some privacy. This costs €6.80 one way on this route, so you're better off just sitting in second class, especially as this train isn't busy at the moment. As for luggage storage, most of this is the overhead luggage space just above, whilst larger racks for suitcases can be found throughout each carriage.
Prochain arrêt, Capellen.
We're now arriving into Klein-Bettingen, the border station between Luxembourg and Belgium. From here, you need to have a valid paid ticket to continue towards Arlon, as after here we'll be crossing the border to reach our final stop, with another CFL Class 2 400 scene having done so heading towards Luxembourg. Now you may be forgiven for thinking that this point is where we cross the border into Belgium, given how the infrastructure looks a lot less modern, but we're not there just yet. The border crossing takes place a few yards later, as indicated by the subtle change in the overhead catenary. And welcome to Belgium! Of course there are no passport formalities, as both here and Luxembourg are part of the European Schengen zone, so we're all set to head into our final destination. These trains may not be perfect, but they're a step in the right direction for Luxembourg's local international routes. Yes, they're not the most comfortable from a seat perspective, and I find the whole first class concept with CFL slightly confusing, but the Coradia Max trains are an improvement in terms of onboard facilities compared to what they're replacing, and even compared to their existing stock in some cases, the newest ones dating from the early 2010s. Let's also not forget as well that these trains are free to ride when in Luxembourg, and the international journeys they'll be doing are relatively inexpensive in second class, so next time you visit Luxembourg, why not give them a go? You certainly won't have much to lose. We're now passing SNCB's Arlon depot with its rather clever and amusing design, and shortly afterwards we arrive into Arlon station right on time. Now you've heard from me, I want to hear from you. What did you think of the CFL Coradia Max? Have you tried it before, or has this video inspired you to give it or other trains in Luxembourg a go? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and share it if you did to aid the channel's growth, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. I'll be heading back to Luxembourg soon to meet a friend, but I think I'll go for a wander first before getting the train back. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.